I mean, this is not. It's just which part of South Africa did you grow up in?
Durban, on the
Okay.
East Coast.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very very nice area, and you know, I keep on talking about all the lenses that I see through. When I was 18, I was like a sophomore in college. Christmas Eve, I was stabbed almost to death on my left eye. I had 30 stitches over here. And a few months later, the panel of doctors from the UK, US, and South Africa said that an optic nerve to the brain had been cut. And so I was going to be blind in one eye for the rest of my life. And it was a crime by a black person. And then the police who were investigating the case decided to have it closed. Because I don't know, maybe there's a lot of bribery too, you know, that goes on. And they just put on the case that my family had moved, and so there was no way of pursuing the case. So I'm over 50 now, and I've been seeing with one eye, and there was a struggle, but with that one eye I was able to finish my Bachelor of Science degree. I did my long distance learning, got a diploma in tropical agriculture, and at that same time too I did a concurrent diploma in education, which would allow me to teach after graduating from college. And I worked at a community college. I was a math and science professor, and I got 2 scholarships. One of them was to go to Leeds University to further my studies in math, and the other one was to do my master's degree in biology at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. And boy, after having watched the Golden Girls, Dallas, I thought, England, America. I was raised on Disco Baby. I was raised on disco. I mean, there was a song that would come and say, "We're living in America." And I am going to America where the streets are paved with gold, where everybody is rich. I ended up here.
Julie, I have a question. I am from Argentina. So my country had its own process of memory, and we don't say reconciliation, we say memory and justice, because really in my country we never look for reconciliation as part of the true process. And I am always shocked with Kerry that I am always torn between what is happening in my country with memory and what happens in this country with memory. So I am wondering, what is the experience for you when you look at the apartheid, you know, and how the story has been told and retold over the years. So where is your country now? What are the political memories of your country right now about the apartheid, the true reconciliation process?
You know the phrase where they say absolute power corrupts absolutely? I have some of my relatives who are in power right now, okay? Part of the ANC, holding political office. The gap between the rich and the poor keeps widening, and it's the black people that are in power. So, you know, I go back and I say, this is not the freedom I fought for. So did we just want to get the white minority government so that we could put in some of our people that can also do some of the things that, you know, they were not part of justice. So it's very troubling to me. Okay, we're doing this, and then sometimes I hear my friends saying, yeah, we are messed up this way because of colonization. I said, you know what you're doing right now? you are getting recolonized yourself. I said, there's got to be a time when something bad happens to you. You got to be able to move on. But people don't want to move on, because if I move on, then I'm letting you off the hook. So, you know, they're being recolonized, and, you know, they're thinking, well, now, you know, we can't act any other way because the whites colonized us. When I was in Michigan, there was this guy who was Muslim, and he was just like, I cannot believe that you would work for a church, the white church, because white people are evil, and, you know, this is what they've done and all that. I said, brother, let me tell you this. I come from the Zulu tribe. I said, I'm Zulu by assimilation. I said, I belong to a smaller tribe that was defeated by Shaka Zulu, and then we were assimilated into the Zulu kingdom. I said, there were no white people then. Not a single white people, but he was going out there conquering smaller and weaker nations. I said, we can't blame all our problems on white people. I said, when the slaves were being sent to other parts of the world, many of my black people sold our black people into slavery because they wanted money. So I said, you know, brother, I'm part guilty of slavery because some of my ancestors sold people into slavery. My tribe usually make marks on the face, and they did that because the slave owners did not want ugly slaves. So when they came around and saw that you were cut in the face, then they wouldn't want you. So that's how many of the people in my tribe did not go into slavery. So like I say, I'm sorry if I'm confusing you, but this world is confused, and we gotta straighten it up. So what do they say? These boots were made for walking. You better put on your boots and go walk out in the world to make a difference. Make yourself uncomfortable for the sake of justice.
So not unrelated to Marina's questions, I'm curious about how the truth and reconciliation process is remembered. So in contemporary South Africa, do people view it as something that was productive and useful, or is there cynicism? You know, and I know there's probably a range of opinions, but just generally, what's the sentiment toward the process?
It was seen as something that was good and useful. And so it's kind of like people don't go back to that anymore as much. You know, it's just like something in the past. And so they have other things that they're more concerned about. So, I mean, they liked it that way because, I mean, we didn't get into wars like some of the surrounding nations. Mm-hmm. And that some of the people that we didn't know about, you know, where the final days, we're able to find that which brought closure. So I mean, it was a really good process, and very, very healing. And I'm thinking that we are where we are now because we were able to get that healing, and we're able to move on. And so if we cannot get that healing here, we cannot move on. I'm telling you the truth, we cannot move on.
Reactions or questions?
And this is not really a question, a history question, but just out of curiosity, how do you see South Africa moving forward? I know that municipal elections earlier this year got quite a lot of coverage in the UK, so there was a shift to, is it the Democratic Alliance, the party I'm trying to think of, the sort of, which took a place like Cape Town and Port Elizabeth and things, me misremembering a collection of newspapers. So a few weeks ago, or maybe a few months ago, there was those big riots in the Pretoria area. Mm-hmm. My cousin, she was the youngest in Parliament when Nelson Mandela
because she used to be with the ANC Youth Brigade, African National Congress Youth Brigade. And so she was the youngest. She was in her 20s when she was elected into Parliament. So she's been in politics for decades. And so the way they do it there is that if your party wins, then someone who is nominated as a leader would be, assume the leadership. So that area, like around Pretoria, where my cousin has lived for decades, if the ANC had won that area, she would have been the mayor. But then the problem of tribalism came up. The people in that area said she was not Sutu or Tswana, she was Zulu, so she would not be allowed to be, a mayor there. So the ANC didn't win that area, and so she did not get. But in the meantime, they had riots. People were looting at the malls. They were burning cars, buses, and everything. My cousin was all behind that, and she was like, I'm not stepping down. The ANC, in my opinion, has gotten very lax. The ANC of the 1990s is different from the ANC now. And so they kind of, I think in their minds, they thought that because we've been the well-known party, then we're just gonna automatically win. Except that the people are like, we don't see a difference in our lives. There's more poverty. We have people. Now listen to this. I resigned as a professor in South Africa in 1990 when I came to the U.S. to go to seminary. And when I went back there to collect my pension, about 10 years later, they told me, what do you mean you resigned in 1990? You've been getting paid all these years. Someone was collecting a check on my behalf. Imagine that. So, so the ANC kind of laxed a little bit, and they thought, we are that party that's known. And then you have other places like the DP,